Am I the asshole for threatening my family after they insulted my wife in front of my face? So I'm 22 male, my wife is 21 female. We've been together since childhood. We've been dating since I was 17. Problem is, she met with an accident when she was 11, and since then she couldn't walk. We are working on it, but it isn't promising at all. We got married 8 months ago. My family and hers and our friends all joined us. My family criticized me for marrying so early and being rash. I have 2 elder brothers, they are 2 years apart, and 1 elder sister who's 4 years older than me. They attended my wedding and I thought they accepted her, but a few days ago we had a family dinner because finally my eldest sister was going to get married. Everything was going good. We joked around, drank, ate, danced, etc., etc. My wife was sleepy, so I took her upstairs and put her to sleep. She can't handle alcohol at all. I came downstairs after a while. Out of nowhere, my sister said that it's better if my wife is not present in her wedding. I thought it was a joke, so I laughed. She said she was serious. I asked her why. She simply said that she wants me to be beside her and not carry my wife around. I was like, what? She's not a burden. She's family.
My mother-in-law's been complaining that I make her uncomfortable. However, it's really not my issue. Story time. So for the most part, me and my mother-in-law have always got on. I've been with Mark for about 8 years now, and we met when we were both 14, so I've kind of known him and his family just forever. So let's just call my mother-in-law Natalie, just to make this story a bit easier to follow. So obviously when I first started dating Mark, I was very undeveloped, let's just say. As me and Mark kind of started to go out a little bit longer, I started going on family holidays with them, sleeping around their house a bit more. So obviously Natalie and everyone was seeing me in pyjamas and bikinis and everything like that. And this really never felt like an issue until I started to get a bit older. So Mark has some siblings, he has brothers and sisters, and Natalie and her husband are still together, and like, I don't know, I would play with everyone in my bikinis, I would be involved in games, I'd go for walks with just Natalie, I'd go for walks with just Natalie's husband. I don't know, I was really involved with this family, obviously because me and Mark got together so young. So I reached an age where my time in the itty bitty community came to an end. I just started to get older and I started to develop and grow into a woman. And there is nothing wrong with that. However, according to Natalie, there is everything wrong with that. Natalie is very small frame. She never left the itty bitty community, literally like a 5 foot nothing, and really doesn't have a lot on her. But last winter is when I kind of made my most changes. I went up a lot of bra sizes, and then we all had a trip to Thailand planned this year, and then obviously we went away. And this was kind of the first time Mark's family has seen me in minimal clothing since all the changes. On the first day when we decided to have a pool day to recover from travelling, as soon as I walked outside in the morning, Natalie pulled Mark aside. She was like, oh, can I have a word in the kitchen? Honestly, I thought nothing of this at all, but oh my god, they were in the kitchen for about an hour. I did think that was a little bit weird, and then Mark came back outside and he was like, oh, let's go upstairs, we need to have a little talk. And obviously Mark was completely on my side. He was like, I don't even want to have to tell you what this conversation was, but Mum basically just pulled me aside and said everyone has decided that they feel really uncomfortable with me in a bikini, can I wear a top? And I was just so taken back. I was like, this is so weird. Mark kind of expressed to me, he was like, you really don't have to if you don't want to, like, I'll fully support you, obviously. I decided I didn't want to, like, why should I cover up myself? That's something that's just natural. So I went back outside, obviously uncovered, and the boys went golfing, which is normally when us girls go shopping or we go on a walk together. When I tell you, all 3 of the girls went for a walk without me. They didn't even invite me. So when Natalie and everyone got back from a walk, I didn't hold back at all. Said to her, it's completely disrespectful that you're singling me out for something I can't help with. It's completely natural. And that's when she just kind of told me that everyone feels super uncomfortable around me now, and that she thinks it's wrong that I'm being sexual in front of everyone. And that's when I kind of said to her, like, it's not my issue if you're feeling threatened or sexualized by me, because I can't help that.
I walked in on my husband getting breastfed by his mother on our wedding. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, and send me on Instagram. All of this happened on our wedding day, but 3 weeks before the wedding, the weirdest thing happened. Literally, nobody prepares you for how stressful planning a wedding is. To be honest, it's been the worst time of my life, and I'm 22. My husband is 25. We met 3 years ago traveling, and we happened to be from the same city while traveling. It was crazy. We thought it was meant to be. We were inseparable from the first day we met. We met each other's parents a week after we met each other. We integrated into each other's families flawlessly. We have the same values and morals. So moving in together was the logical next step. And it happened super quick. A month after meeting, we moved in together. He proposed to me almost a year ago. He comes from a super rich family. My family lives comfortably, but his parents are millionaires. So his mom hired a wedding planner, which is amazing because it's totally taken the stress off of us. Now for the wedding planning, we usually meet once a week with the wedding planner, and his mom always comes with us. On one of these meetings, I wasn't able to attend, so my husband and his mom met together. I knew that they were gonna get lunch afterwards, so I decided to surprise them. Instead of being at the restaurant they said they were gonna be in, they were in the parking lot. I could see their car. Okay, now one thing about my mother-in-law, she always wears low-cut shirts. Now she's got great boobs, so I understand why. As I'm approaching the car, I can see my husband leaning into his mom's side. He's in the driver's seat, he's in the passenger. I thought, oh sweet, he has his head on her shoulder. But as I got closer, I realized his head was not on her shoulder. It was lower than that. As soon as I knock on the window, they both jump up. That's when out of the corner of my eye, I see her adjusting her top, her very low-cut top. And the first thing I thought was, wouldn't it be funny if he was breastfeeding? My mother-in-law accused me of spying on them. I'm about to get on a flight. Part 2 will be up in 3 hours.
My fiance is convinced that I have a crush on my friend's husband. My best friend Sarah, 26 female, and her husband Matt, 28 male, have put me in a very difficult position with my fiance Jack, 30 male. I knew Matt since my childhood, he was my neighbor, and we were friendly. Sarah and I were roommates in college and became close friends. When I introduced Sarah and Matt, they hit it off and started dating each other. I was happy to see 2 of my friends get together, but also annoyed that I became the third wheel, which was often ignored or set aside because they were so into each other. By the time I graduated, Matt had completely dropped me as a friend. That saddened me, but I was still good friends with Sarah, so it was what it was. Sarah and I would frequently hang out, but I never talked with Matt other than the occasional polite hellos. Sarah would sometimes try to do couple dates with her and Matt, and me and my dates. I found that Matt had developed an unpleasant personality and would frequently be rude and condescending towards me. However, he's a very devoted and loving husband to Sarah, so for her sake, I ignored him. When my fiance and I got engaged, we had no plans to do a party. Sarah was disappointed that we didn't throw an engagement party, so she organized a small get-together at her home to celebrate us. The party was nice, and as things were winding down, my fiance and I went to thank Sarah and Matt for a sweet gesture before we took our leave. Matt was pretty tipsy by then, and out of nowhere, he suddenly hugged me and in front of my fiance said that he was so glad that I was finally settling down, and he is relieved that now I'll be over the crush I had on him. I was shocked and told him that wasn't true. He just laughed and told Jack that I was always chasing him and he had to work hard to keep me away. I dragged Sarah in and asked her to please fix this mess, and she was all like, oh, he's drunk, ignore him, and says, you know, I always trust you. I know you wouldn't act on your crush. Jack was pretty pissed by this point, and he walked out. I ran after him and tried explaining that it isn't true, but he told me he doesn't want to be anyone's second choice or their backup plan. Since that night, he isn't talking to me or returning my calls. I've talked to Sarah multiple times to clear things with Jack, but she's just brushing me off. I don't understand why they believe this, or why she'd stay friends with me if she thought I was into her husband. I was in her wedding party and did all the work because her sister, who was the maid of honor, was too busy. I've helped her through her pregnancy and I've babysat her kids so many times. She never gave me any indication she thought this, and why would she want me close to her family if she believed this? I feel humiliated that people think I was going after a jerk like Matt. I need help in convincing Jack that this isn't true. I'm also mad at him for throwing away our relationship over what some drunken idiot said. I don't know what I'm going to do about my friendship with Sarah either.
My wife pawned my mother's ring, and I don't know what to do. Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. I don't know what to do. I'm absolutely devastated. I, 32 male, have been with my wife, 28 female, for 10 years. In those 10 years, I thought she was my rock and that we were unbreakable. We got married when she was fresh out of high school. I couldn't afford much, so her ring was pretty much a grain of sand on a sterling silver band. Her parents were very abusive and controlling, but I won't get into that. My mother passed away almost a year ago, and we recently had everything finalized with her estate. She wanted her house to be sold so my brothers and I wouldn't fight over it, and the money was to be split equally. She also left us some jewelry. Among the jewelry I received was my mother's ring. My wife and I are in a better place financially than we were 10 years ago, so we thought it best to put the money that we received into a savings account. I gave her my mother's ring as an upgrade. She loved the ring, but about a month later I noticed that she wasn't wearing it, and she just let me know that she left it with a jeweler to have it cleaned. Seemed reasonable to me. Another week passed and she still wasn't wearing it. I jokingly asked if she really found it ugly and that's why she hasn't worn it. She started crying and I felt like shit because I thought she actually hated it and had just put on a brave face so I wasn't disappointed. but she blurted out that she had sold it because about a month ago her parents reached out and they had found out that her father had cancer and they needed help paying for the treatments. She thought she could go back to the pawn shop and buy it back when she got paid, but she found out that the ring had already been sold and they refused to disclose to her who had bought it. I don't want to divorce her, but I'm filled with so much disgust I can't even look at her. And I'm so hurt she didn't even bother to tell me. I had to find out a month after it happened.
Am I the asshole for telling my wife to never volunteer me to help her family again? My wife, 38 female, and I, 39 male, have been married for 8 years and have a 4-year-old son. My wife's younger brother, Joe, and his girlfriend are moving into an apartment together at the beginning of June. But girlfriend's lease is up at the end of April, so she needed to move out of her place. But Joe currently lives in a studio apartment, so he doesn't have room for all of her stuff. So they were going to move all of girlfriend's stuff into a storage unit for a month until they got their new place together. A little over a month ago, Joe had asked my wife if we would be able to help them move girlfriend's stuff, and she agreed. My mother-in-law was supposed to watch our son so we could both help, but she fell ill and had to cancel. My wife suggested trying to get a babysitter for that day, but I didn't want to spend hundreds on a babysitter to help someone move. That's dumb. And bringing a 4-year-old with us would not be helpful to anyone. This turned into an argument between us because she said I should help them move while she watches our son, since I'm stronger than she is and I know how to drive our truck with a trailer. I told her that she should help them and have them rent a U-Haul for the day. We compromised by telling Joe that I would help them, but they need to get a U-Haul instead of using our truck and trailer. Then, the morning of the move, this past Saturday, my wife told me that a friend of hers got sweet tickets through work to a hockey game for that day and invited them. Yes, sweet tickets to a playoff hockey game. She said that she would be bringing our son since her friend was bringing her kids too. Great. So not only do I get stuck helping someone move, but my wife and son get to go to an amazing experience together that I miss out on. And yes, this was my son's first major sporting event and I was missing it. And wouldn't you know it, Joe never got a U-Haul. And his girlfriend wasn't even close to packed up and ready when I got there. I spent 7 to 10 hours and multiple trips back and forth helping them move. All the while, my wife is sending pictures to our family group chat of how much fun they're having at the hockey game. While everyone was home that night, my wife was surprised that I wasn't in a good mood. She said that I acted like I barely cared when our son was telling us about the hockey game and how much fun it was. I asked her if she was seriously confused about why I was upset, and she told me to tell her. So I started railing off all the reasons that I had to be pissed. She volunteered me to help. She got to spend the day doing something very special with our son that I missed out on too. Her brother and his girlfriend were not prepared, and I had to spend the entire day doing manual labor. I ended my little rant by telling her that she's never going to volunteer me to help her family ever again. She told me that I was overreacting, and I can't hold it against her that her friend invited them to the game. She also said I'm not being fair by blaming her for Joe and his girlfriend. Am I the asshole?
My teacher kidnapped me, and here's actually how I ended up falling in love with him. Story time. Now, I know you guys are going to think this is fake or just crazy, but let me please explain it, because I promise it gets less and less crazy. So, my teacher who kidnapped me, we'll just call him Mark. He was my year 7 teacher all the way through to year 9. Then he actually ended up leaving the school when I was going into year 10. And I honestly was heartbroken. Like, he was such a good teacher. Everybody did love him, and I did lose my V card to him. Of course, I was heartbroken to see him go. I'm not going to lie to you, I was slightly obsessed with Mark. You can kind of understand why. I did lose my V to him, and it's always super nice to me. But when he left teaching, I just really wanted to know what he was up to. So I tried to find him on Facebook, and obviously he was on private. I tried to find him on LinkedIn, couldn't find him. So I decided to go through his best friend, who I did know the name of, and I added him on Facebook, and he added me back. This was through a fake account, by the way. This was not like under my name. May or may not have used my sister's name to do this. Through Mark's best friend, I ended up finding exactly what Mark was up to, whereabouts he was living. I didn't really want to do anything with the information. I just wanted to know. So sometimes I would take a walk by that garage just to see what he was doing, and I don't know, just to see him. As I got slightly older, my obsession kind of faded. Obviously with other people, I got interested in boys my age. Looking back on it, I definitely was just immature and maybe slightly manipulated, and Mark just kind of never came into my mind. And I am a very, very private person. Like, my Instagram's on private. I post like everything on it because I quite literally have like 10 followers. I would post where I am, what I was doing, like where I was working, what shifts I was working. Like when I wake up, I'll be like, a 12.5-hour shift today. And one day I was leaving work and I took the route I took every single day, and obviously talk to my Instagram story sometimes whilst on this route home. I kid you not, this was the scariest night of my life because I saw this like figure behind me. Like I saw his shadow. Knew what was about to happen. I'm gonna leave out the details. However, I ended up coming face to face with Mark again. Of course, at first I was so annoyed, so upset, and just so scared. Like I didn't know what he wanted from me and why he decided to do it in this way. However, as time went on, me and him talked and like we got super close again, and it got to a point where he was like trusting me. So I like eventually got my phone back. I was able to talk to my friends and family. I could break up with my boyfriend. I didn't snitch on him at all because I definitely developed feelings. This leads us to present day where Mark has actually just proposed to me. And of course I never told my friends and family about this. Never told them that I lost my V to Mark. Like never told him how me and him got back in contact. Said that I went MIA. I was an adult, I was allowed to, and I found Mark.
Did my girlfriend just try to kill me? What do I do? So I'm posting this here because I feel like I'm going crazy. Me, 20, and my girlfriend, 21, have been together for almost a year. We have had a great relationship until this event recently. We're both in college and we had a Friendsgiving event to go to with our group. It was a potluck sort of thing. Everyone brings your own dish. I brought mac and cheese and my girlfriend also made some brownies. I'm only mentioning this because it's relevant, but I am deathly allergic to walnuts. My girlfriend knows this. If she gets me food, she makes sure there's none in whatever she brings, and I usually ask again just in case as a reminder because you would be surprised what has what in it. Later at the party, I was going to go over to have one, and I asked her to make sure there were no walnuts, and she said there weren't. I went ahead and ate one. Then I began to feel a bit dizzy and nauseous. I went over to my girlfriend and mentioned that I didn't feel so well, asking again about walnuts or cashews in the brownie, and she said no. She said I was fine and just to enjoy the party. Then I realized I was starting to break out into hives and my throat was itching and realized I was having a reaction. At this point, I felt my tongue start to swell up and I could feel my airway getting smaller, which is extremely scary as it means I was going into anaphylactic shock. I asked her for my EpiPen. Usually she keeps it in her purse when we go places since I don't have a bag, but she said it was in the car and ran out to get it. Did my girlfriend just try to kill me? What do I do? I used it on myself and had to go in the hospital. It was really embarrassing because I basically killed the party for everyone, but everyone was just glad I turned out okay. This is where there's a problem. I didn't eat anything at that party except the apple cider and that brownie. I asked my girlfriend about it again and she broke down crying, saying she did put them in there as it was in the recipe, but forgot when I asked. Apparently she remembered after I had to go to the hospital and felt really embarrassed it took so long to remember and didn't want to tell me. I feel like she's lying to me. She never buys anything or cooks with walnuts. She said she's said that she hates them, but then she puts them in brownies and then forgets she did after asking her twice and saying I'm going to eat them. She has known I'm deathly allergic ever since we started dating, and I just don't know how she forgot twice, especially if she literally made them 2 hours before. The problem is, if she did it on purpose, that literally makes no sense either. I don't see why she would ever do something like that, but I also don't see how it could be an accident. I'm just very confused and concerned. In all honesty, I really like her, but I'm tempted to leave after that because the whole ordeal was very scary, and I can't help but blame it on her, but I'm also scared I'm overreacting and maybe it was really an accident. I'm just not sure.
I tricked my sister and my husband into sleeping with each other so that I could get a hall pass. Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. My 43 female, husband 45 male, have been married for 15 years. We have 2 kids, 15 female and 13 female. I am completely in love with my husband, and I feel our compatibility on an emotional level is unmatched. We share everything with each other. That said, the last 2 years I felt sexually frustrated in a way I cannot begin to describe. My husband and I have talked about this, and he genuinely believes that sex gets worse with age. About a month ago, I got a new coworker, and he screams danger, like he could end my marriage just with one look danger. So I may have gotten a little obsessive with my fantasies, especially when we started working together on a new project. He's very flirty, and I honestly believe that's just his demeanor. So I began concocting a plan on how I would be able to make this happen. Now, I didn't want to play it stupid and ask for an open marriage and have it blow up in my face like I've seen many stories on Reddit and TikTok. Our weekly Sunday family dinners, I noticed that my husband and my sister have been a little friendly with each other. Now, before these fantasies Part 2. I tricked my sister and my husband into sleeping with each other so that I could get a hall pass. Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. At our weekly Sunday family dinners, I noticed that my husband has been a little friendly with my sister. Now, before these fantasies, this would have bothered me, but now I knew I could manipulate this situation to my benefit. I decided to set up a friends night, so I dropped the kids off at grandma's and brought enough alcohol to make sure everyone would be too out of it to drive home. Since I'm only one in my group that loves gin, I poured about 3/4 of the bottle out and filled the rest with water, as a way to carry on drinking but still be sober enough to see my plan through. At about midnight, I noticed that my sister was a little tipsy, so without anybody noticing, I helped her into my room to lie down. About an hour later, I urged my husband to head up and I would follow. By then, some people noticed that they had gone missing, and 2 of my girlfriends tried to help me make sure both of them were okay. Needless to say, they found my sister getting it on with my husband. That sobered some people up pretty quick, and it made things really awkward. Lots of yelling happened, and I played my part so well, pretending I was so heartbroken. My friends ended up calling my parents to come get my sister. My mother was sobbing when she arrived and begged me to forgive my sister because she was so drunk and it was a mistake. My girlfriends and I spent the weekend at a hotel before I had to go pick up my kids from my in-laws on Sunday night. My mother-in-law was so apologetic about what happened. She told me my husband called her crying and explained he fucked up so bad. We talked a few days later, and he was even the one who suggested a hall pass to keep me from breaking up our family. He thought our communication was fine and that we could make this work without counseling. He was afraid a therapist would push us into a divorce. My sister and I talked, and I forgave her. It has now been 5 years since that happened, and I can't say that the sex was actually worth this elaborate plan. But it did help my husband discover the little blue ill, and it has been what our sex life needed. And that right there is how I was able to have my cake and eat it.
Today I fucked up by inviting the wrong woman to a Green Day concert and a week-long trip to Ireland. So I've been single for a couple years now, out of a 10-year relationship. A complete Tinder noob. That shit wasn't a bad thing back when I was on the dating circuit. Suffice to say, I hate it. I had a few dozen matches but was a bit too depressed in the last 2 years to meet anyone. Keep in mind, I live alone in a foreign country and rarely get unsolicited calls or texts. I finally reach out to one of my matches from months ago, let's call her Lisa, and we start talking. Over the course of a couple weeks, I ask if she'd like to meet for drinks or dinner in her city. She obliges and it's happy days. We meet and have a great time. No awkward silences, just banter of a few beers, and Tinder suddenly feels like a real-life conduit. Lisa's really cute, very pleasant, and just feels like a really nice girl. So we end the date, she walks me to the train station, and we part ways. Lisa, the waitress, left an impression. Fuck it, I like her. I get a message the next day. Nothing romantic, just a simple greeting, and we spark up a convo that lasts the whole length of the day. We talk about life, travel, music, share YouTube songs, etc. I found out she likes Green Day and has always wanted to visit Ireland. I already have a ticket to see Green Day in Dublin this June. Keep in mind this is a 2-hour flight from where I live. I say to myself, you know what, fuck it. Life is short, I have cash, YOLO. So after a lengthy chat the next day, I post it to her. Hey, you like Green Day? You've always wanted to visit Ireland? Well, I'm headed home there for a concert in June. I'll buy you a ticket and I can show you my home country. Tour for a bit if you want and we can get the time off of work. I acknowledge it might sound a bit sudden and crazy, but emphasize there's no pressure. I just really enjoyed meeting her and YOLO, etc. I bought the ticket and even sent her a screenshot of the receipt. No pressure, I can sell it easy, but it's there if you like. The next day, I get a response. Hey Jem, I checked in with work and yes, I can make the holidays. Regards, Renata. Renata? Renata is some random Polish woman I met at my local after the date and barely spoke to for an hour. I was pretty drunk by the time we met, and she asked for my number. I completely forgot I even gave her my number and the nameless text I got the next day. It could have only been Lisa in my mind. It was actually Renata. Renata is nice, by the way, but fuck my life. I hadn't planned on going to Green Day and touring Ireland with her. This is my life right now, and I have no idea how to handle this situation. But I do think it's funny as fuck.
I just found out my boyfriend used to be intimate with his auntie. Storytime. I started dating my boyfriend, who we'll call Mark, about a year ago, and I am in to awe of him. Like, honestly, the love of my life. I have never met a man who treated me so well, just loves my family as much as he does. Like, honestly, a man made in heaven, basically. However, I have always known that Mark's come from a really troubling background. I've always felt so sorry for him. However, I've always just been even more in awe of how amazing he's turned out, even with having such a crap childhood like he did. And even though Mark was just my dream man, I did notice a few worrying factors when dating him, and a lot of the time these were like in the bedroom. Mark was quite adventurous, and until he told me what he told me, I thought it was just down to adventure. Mark was a huge advocate for dirty outdoors, basically. Public places, restaurants, transport, on a walk, like, if there's public, he was down for it. Mark also really loved doing stuff like being sneaky, okay? He really wanted to, if there was anybody, and I mean anybody, including family members, would want to try and sneakily do things. I don't know, I felt wrong because that's just not me. However, I just thought some people, so who am I to judge? Also, in the back of my mind, I did think, oh my god, like when we've been together for a little bit longer, the novelty will wear off a little bit. So I thought we'll sit and wait for a bit, basically. So because of Mark's past, I did see how happy I made him, and that made me so happy to see him finally feel a little bit more free. So a year got on, and Mark was still kind of really into public PDA. Okay, let's just call it PDA. And he was also quite, I don't know how to say it, but like in the bedroom he was quite full on. And not in a concerning way, but in a way of like, that's not kind of me. So I brought this up to Mark over our 1 year anniversary dinner the other day. I did say to him, like, I am so happy you're happy, babe. Like, I'm really glad I'm bringing you this sort of joy and peace. However, this PDA, especially in front of my family, ain't it. Okay, like I can't continue it any longer. And I thought, I weren't sure how he was going to proceed it. However, he sat me down after dinner and he told me something that, oh my god, I felt bad for him, but also really creepy. Basically told me that I don't want to go into too much detail, but basically when he was younger, he ended up having a intimate relationship with his aunt, and that kind of sculpted how he sees PDA now. If I'm being 100% honest, didn't know what to say when he told me that. So I asked him, like, how do you feel about this now? Please tell me why. Mark responded, oh, well, it's got me to who I am today, so I don't mind that much. Okay.
Am I the asshole for saying I didn't realize I could love a person this much in front of my fiance after having our baby? I gave birth a few weeks ago to our baby girl, and when I held her for the first time, I was just looking her in the eyes and I said, I didn't even know that I could love a person this much. She is just so perfect and beautiful. In that moment, my mom looked at me and she told me that feeling never goes away, and then we both ugly cried. It was an extremely special moment for all of us. My fiance was quiet, but he smiled, and then later that day, he told me that it hurt his feelings. He said he loved us both the same, and me saying that made it seem like I loved our daughter more than him. I just kind of gave him like an, are you effing serious look, and then he just dropped it. But yesterday, he brought it up again. I told him that yes, I love and cherish our daughter, and honestly, I have never felt this type of love for a human before. Then he continued to say that most normal people would agree with him that it was a hurtful comment. They would also take it offensively due to the implications. So I just want to hear another perspective. Am I the asshole?
I got a girl pregnant and signed my parenting rights away. Before I begin, let me start by saying I'm fully aware I'm a terrible person and I'm open to all forms of criticism. I, 17 male, at the time was on multiple dating apps looking for a casual hookup when I came across 18 female who lived just across town from me. We had matched and started talking online for about 2 days in this time, and we got to know very basic information about each other, such as favorite movie, music genres, etc. We then decided to mutually meet up at a halfway point in our town and hang out from there. We ended up getting closer to my house and my parents weren't home, so we decided to head over and watch a few movies before getting it on. Me being the young, dumb, full of cum kid I didn't think I would need a condom because all of my other buddies had pulled out. Why shouldn't I? And she claimed she was on birth control, so what's the big deal, right? We started doing the nasty, and 2 hours passed where we were both drenched in sweat and go for a shower. As she gets ready to leave, I walk her home for her to ghost me completely. About a month later, she texts me a pregnancy test claiming it's mine. Me being the idiotic kid I blocked her on everything. Problem solved, right? Wrong. The coming weeks were non-stop messages from her family and friends, and even some people from my school were all coming at me for not wanting to step up. After I blocked all of them constantly, the messages disappeared and stopped. I thought it was over. Occasionally I'd get the deadbeat piece of scum message here and there, but I'd ignore it. Fast forward about a year later, I'm 18 at the time, and someone knocks on the door. I go and answer it. I've been served for child custody and support. Not knowing what to do, I fill everything out and go to my first hearing and ask for a DNA test. So I purchase the test and get it done, and turns out the kid is mine. Nobody's surprised it has all my features down to the eyes. I signed my parental rights away and agreed to pay child support according to my financial statement. The entire reason I did what I did is unjustifiable. I know I fucked up, and the worst part is I don't regret it one fucking bit because of the fact that I was able to hide the truth from people that didn't know about my situation. When I had to pay child support, if anyone asked why I was short on money, I'd tell them it's for a sick family member's treatment and medication. Feel free to tell me how horrible of a person I am. I don't regret it, but I know I should. I also know I don't deserve much, if anything, good moral of my story. Don't be stupid like I was.
I am completely fine with my husband cheating on me, except on my birthday. Story time. So my husband cheats on me a lot. I'm gonna say cheat on me quite loosely because I am aware. To be honest, I am okay with it. So I am at work a lot. Work very, very long hours, and I work a stupid amount of days a week. So the first time Mark told me that he cheated on me, basically I was not okay with this. But when he told me the reason, it was because he just felt super, super lonely, which is heartbreaking, but I do kind of understand it. But at the same time, I'm also lonely. Like, I'm the one working these super long hours, and when I get home, you're not even home. This basically led to a conversation between us two, and I basically caved in and said I am okay for you to with other people because Mark does provide me with a lot. I'm not going to sit here and lie. He pulled me out of a super dark place. We've just been together for literally all of our life. I would rather it be this than us not be together. However, in my head, this also meant I too could sleep with other people. So if Mark was not around when I got home from work and I felt a little bit, I was able to booty call someone. However, I did this a few years ago. Mark didn't like it. It literally nearly caused a divorce between us two. So basically, Mark can cheat on me, but I can't cheat on him. I can see the comments already. This whole time, I thought Mark was being so considerate, like making sure he doesn't cheat on me on my birthday, on Christmas, any big occasion, basically. I thought he was doing it on purpose to not cheat. Boy, was I wrong. So the other day, it was my birthday. I turned 35, and Mark surprised this like beautiful birthday dinner for me. It was Italian, which is my favorite cuisine. See, it was a really, really nice day. Mark did amazing like he normally does. And we come home from dinner, and I am ready to thank this man. So we go upstairs. Obviously, we've had a few drinks as well. So me and Mark enter the bedroom. We start to get a little bit freaky. Okay, we start to get a bit under the sheet, and then Mark just stops. This never happened. And it rolls over, and he's about to go to sleep. I kind of say to him like, what are you doing? Like, I'm trying to thank you here. When I tell you, this man turns around to me and said, tired, I don't want anything. Kind of think weird, but okay. And then he told me that he didn't mean tired in the term of more tired. Mark already got down and dirty with someone else today. Because I worked a morning shift this morning, Mark woke up and he felt the need. So he invited someone round, which meant I couldn't have anything for my birthday. This didn't sit right with me. I was just really, really upset because really I thought Mark just never did anything, obviously around a special occasion. And now I just know that weren't the case, and don't know, this whole agreement is starting to become a bit much for me, and now I'm regretting every decision I've ever made with
Am I the asshole for divorcing my husband for not buying me a designer bag? Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. My husband and I have been together for the last 5 years. In those 5 years, I feel like I'm the one who made the most sacrifices to make our relationship work. About 2 years ago, Greg had an affair which resulted in a daughter, Emma. We went to therapy, and I ultimately decided to forgive him and continue in our relationship. When Emma was born, it came out that Greg and the birth mom had discussed her signing away her rights and having Greg and I raise her. We never talked about this, and I didn't feel comfortable going forward in adopting her. Still, she came home with us, and I was the one who did all the work. I would have to wake up in the middle of the night and change her, feed her. I ended up losing my job because I was so tired and couldn't focus at work, and didn't qualify for maternity leave because I was not legally her guardian. Greg thought this was even better because I could just stay home with Emma, so he unenrolled her from daycare without even asking if this is what I wanted. But I had no say in keeping her enrolled because, again, I was not legally her guardian. And even though I made a good salary, he still made 3 times more than me. We celebrated my birthday 3 weeks ago, and Greg had been asking me what I wanted for the last few months because he wanted to go big for my 30th. And I let him know I didn't want a party or a dinner at all. All I wanted was my first designer mom bag. I figured he had put me through a lot and I deserved this. And it's not like money was an issue for us. And this is something I would have purchased for myself. Part 2. Am I the asshole for divorcing my husband for not buying me a designer bag? Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. And this is something I would have purchased myself had I not lost my job. I still have a pretty cushy savings account from when I was working, I just didn't want to dip into it for frivolous reasons. For context, Greg has a separate checking account, as well as a joint account with me, where he deposits a monthly allowance that I could use for groceries, household items, and other necessities, including some fun money to be able to go and do things with Emma. Anyways, Greg decided to cater a dinner party at our house for my birthday. When it came time for gifts, I won't lie, I wanted to cry when I saw the perfume was from the brand I wanted the bag from. I smiled and said thank you, and the party ended not long after. Our blow-up didn't happen until after I put Emma down for the night. When I closed the door to her room, he was right there waiting for me. He said I embarrassed him by not being grateful for his gift. I tried to ignore him and go into our room, but when he persisted, I just snapped. I told him I don't feel appreciated. I let him back me into everything into our relationship, and I was done. I asked for a bag, and it may not seem like a big deal, but that just showed how much he didn't listen to what I wanted at all. Money isn't the issue, so I don't know why, when I have sacrificed so much, he couldn't even get me what I wanted. I packed 2 bags that night and left, and it's been 2 weeks since I've been back, and I already talked to a lawyer about starting the divorce proceedings. All of his family has been harassing me for abandoning my family over a stupid bag, while mine has been telling me I should have left him when I found out about Emma. I feel bad about leaving Emma, but I wanted a bag, not a child.
It was an April Fool's joke. You can hang up on 911 now. To begin, I wanted to share this with y'all because allergies are taken very seriously. Wondering if anyone else thinks this is something I should possibly take legal action on since I suffer from horrible anxiety and it's caused me emotional distress, or if I should just say fuck them and try to relax. I work dinner shifts at a popular Italian restaurant in New York City. Never usually have any hiccups, was in a great mood. I'm checking in on a table that had just had the first few bites of their entrees. One of the customers starts itching at his face and holding his neck. There's no sesame in here, right? My heart fucking drops to my stomach when he says that he has a sesame seed allergy that I need to call 911 immediately. My whole section is watching this man convulse in his seat, gasping for air. I'm on the phone with 911 getting all of this man's information from his license as his wife was crying. His wife then asked me what I said his birthday was, and she says that's not right. His birthday is April 1st, between sobs. I relay that to the dispatcher and my manager. The kitchen and staff is fully freaking the fuck out. Just as the ambulance pulls in, they get in my face and start cackling, April Fools! I thought I was going to be in jail and have a dead body in front of me. Dropped my apron and walked out the front door. I can't believe they took it that far and haven't fully processed it.
Here's why I refuse to do anything for my husband's kids. Story time. So me and my husband, who we'll call Mark, we have a super long and complicated history. We were like the high school sweethearts during school. He was a cheerleader, he was a footballer, like, you know, everyone really wanted our relationship. We were really happy, like we generally were. And even though this was like a secondary school relationship, it did turn into quite like a serious relationship. I thought I was gonna marry Mark, and I did end up marrying him. There's a lot in between. When me and Mark broke up, it was because he said that he wasn't ready to settle down, and basically we just had different lifestyles. Like, I really wanted to have a lot of kids, didn't want any kids at all. However, a year after we broke up, Mark already had a kid on the way. Apparently this woman was the love of his life. Like, okay hun, whatever. And obviously this really hurt me, but it doesn't stop there. Me and him were growing up, we shared a notes app, and on that note app we were creating kids' names, and this is before Mark realised he didn't want kids. There was 5 names on there. I wanted about 3 kids, a little list to choose from. I tell you, Mark had 4 kids with this woman, were all the names on that list we made. So 6 years later, his kids were like pushed out but barely walking. Mark runs back to me, says that this woman isn't the love of his life and I am. And it did take a few years, but I did end up taking him back, evidently, as we are now married. However, his ex is an absolute psycho. I don't know what he ever saw in that woman. Like, Natalie is honestly 10/10 psycho. Before me and Mark got married, I stated to him, I do not want to do anything with your kids. If they happen to be there, or if they want to come on holiday with us, like, I don't mind. However, because of how deep it hurt, I'm not going out of my way to please them. And I made this very clear. However, Mark thought it wasn't going to finish all the way through to our marriage, basically. So now I need to know, am I in the wrong for refusing to do anything with Mark's kid?
Am I the asshole for texting my best friend late at night in bed while my husband was there? Last night, me and my husband were both in bed getting ready to settle in for the night. He was scrolling on his phone and asking me to order something online because I have free shipment for that website. I ordered him one item, and then while he was browsing through the website, I texted my best friend from work back. And by the way, she's a female. He basically went off on me saying that I can't even devote a few minutes to him, and it was wrong of my best friend to be texting me that late, etc., etc. So I started arguing back with him and said that I did nothing wrong, that I was just texting my best friend who he has met a few times. And then he asked me to show him all the messages that we had sent that day, and he was counting up my replies to her, which ended up being 28 replies. And he asked me if I would feel comfortable if he was texting someone that much and that often and that late at night. I told him that he's crazy and that I'm allowed to have a best friend and talk to her and text her as much as I want to during the day and even late at night. I would totally understand if he were upset over me texting a male friend that late and that much, but this is just crazy. So I just want to know, am I the asshole for texting my best friend late at night in bed while my husband was there?
My husband exposed me for having an affair in our open marriage. Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. Ruben, 45 male, and I, 40 female, have been married for 15 years. We have 3 amazing kids, 17 male, 15 male, and 14 female. About a year ago, Ruben sat me down for a talk. He let me know that he loves me very much, but that he doesn't feel satisfied with our sex life. And he understands me not always being in the mood, and that's why he never pressured me. So he hopes I can be on board to open up our sex life in our marriage. He had already thought about the rules he wanted to implement. He even brought up how I would be able to benefit from this too and see other men. I was speechless. I never thought our sex life was an issue. We had it at least once a week, and that's on a busy week with 3 kids. Compared to some of my friends, I would say that's a win. I let him know this wasn't something I was comfortable with, but he countered with him being the bigger person by letting me know that he sees an issue with our marriage and coming up with a solution, and I was being close-minded. Long story short, I ended up agreeing. We agreed to a trial for 6 months and then we could revisit the closing of our marriage again then. 3 months ago, we sat down and he let me know he thought we should continue to keep the marriage open. I love him so much, and even though these last few months were absolute misery for me, I agreed. A few weeks ago, I finally opened up to my girlfriends about it, and they were absolutely disgusted that I had been letting him get away with cheating without putting myself out there as well. So they set me up with every attractive person they knew, letting them know I needed revenge sex. Part 2. My husband exposed me for having an affair in our open marriage. Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. So they set me up with every attractive person that they knew, letting them know that I needed revenge sex. I will say, I was mortified when they told me what they did. But none of my dates ever expected anything more than dinner, and that was refreshing. So the last 3 weeks I've been dating Eric, and we recently started having sex. Well, last night Ruben went through my phone, even though we had a rule not to go through each other's phones because we didn't want to hurt our own feelings by what we may see. His ego took a nosedive. Since I never stepped out of our marriage, the first 6 months, he assumed it would continue to be like that. This started an argument. He said the fact that I continued to see the same guy for this long made it an affair, not exploring our open marriage. He told me he never had relations with the same woman more than 2 times, so it was just sex for him and not emotional. I just countered with that was never a part of our original agreement. He told me to stop seeing him, and I told him no. Now that I finally gave him a taste of what he put me through for the last year, he suddenly wanted to close it. Nothing was resolved and he slept in the spare room. The next morning, our kids let me have it for cheating on their dad. And they weren't the only people that he told. He told both his family and mine as well. Now I'm being attacked and I don't know what to do.
My fiance wants his father to check my hymen tomorrow night before I get married. My fiance, 25 male, proposed to me, 22 female, about 8 months ago. We decided on having a relatively small wedding, which is in 2 days. Everything was going great. He seems absolutely perfect, and we are very much in love. I'm a virgin, and so was he. He wanted to save it for marriage, and I wasn't fussed, so I agreed to saving it. He has told me earlier that in his family, the father checks the virginity of the bride the night before the wedding. I laughed this off as it seriously sounds like a massive joke. No, turns out he was dead serious. He wants me, the night before, to open my legs up in a small ceremony type thing so his dad can check me while him, his brothers, and uncle can watch so that they know I'm still pure. I told him fat chance I'm going to do that, and he was begging for me to go through with it and how important it is for him. He said he knew it was slightly embarrassing for me, but his mom did, and it will prove how much I love him and that I have nothing to hide anyway, as I'm still a virgin. I left, and he was crying. It was very dramatic, to be honest. I want to call off the whole wedding because of this and never talk to him again. But at the same time, it's only one thing, and other than that, we are genuinely perfect for each other, and I don't want to spend my life with anyone else, and it is very important to him and his family. What the frick frack do I do? I'm currently at my friend's house. I might stay here for the night. Tomorrow would be our last day as an unmarried couple, and I'm straight up panicking.
Am I the asshole for asking my husband's female friend to leave because I think they might be cheating? My husband and I have been married for about 4 years now, and we live in a super cute, cozy, comfortable 2-bedroom apartment. Recently, his friend Emily lost her job and was evicted from her apartment. They've been friends since college and they've always been super close, but when Emily found herself in this tough position, she asked if she could stay with us for a while until she got back on her feet. I was definitely a little bit concerned and hesitant about this, so I did express my concerns to my husband and we had a little talk about this because I definitely value our routines that we've gotten into as a couple, and I really value our privacy as well. Not to mention, Emily has stayed with us before, and while she's definitely polite, she overstays her welcome a lot, and she really treats our home like her own personal hotel room. Despite all of my reservations, my husband insisted that we let her stay with us, and he was saying that it's only temporary and that he really didn't want to turn his back on his friend when she was in need. So I reluctantly agreed to let Emily stay with us for a week with the understanding that she would be looking for a job and for a new place to live. Am I the asshole for asking my husband's female friend to leave because I think they might be cheating? It's been 3 weeks now and Emily has not made much progress. She basically spends most of her time on our couch watching TV, eating our food, and not contributing to any of the household chores. I've also noticed that Emily and my husband seem to spend a lot of time together laughing and talking late into the night. The other night, I actually walked in on them having a hushed conversation that stopped immediately as I entered the room. Honestly, they both looked really guilty, but my husband just brushed it off, saying that they were just reminiscing on the old times. My husband has also been very defensive whenever I bring up Emily's situation, and he says that I'm being paranoid and unsupportive. Last night, I told Emily that she needs to find a new place to stay by the end of the week, and my husband is absolutely furious with me. He thinks that I'm being heartless and that I don't understand the importance of friendship. But given their behavior and their secretive conversations, I just can't help but think that there's something more going on between them. I don't want to come off as uncaring, but I also don't want to be taken advantage of in my own home or even potentially blindsided by something worse. So, am I the asshole for asking Emily to leave because I suspect they might be cheating?
So we went from best friends to lovers to enemies. This story starts in like my freshman year of high school, and I had this best friend that I've been friends with since about 5th or 6th grade. And obviously because we were so young and started getting so close, we started catching, like a little bit of feelings for each other. But here I was in a dilemma because at the same time that I was falling for him, there's another guy in the picture too. And like I'm over here having conflict because I'm like, I don't know who the fuck I want to choose. And I was honest with both of them, like telling them like I'm conflicted, I don't know who I want. But eventually I did end up choosing the other guy. My best friend was cool about it, he understood, he was mature about it, and we all honestly became like a little friend group. But eventually my bestie, he switches schools and he moves on, he starts doing his own thing. As time goes on, he starts getting like really mean. Like, he used to joke around pretending to bully each other, but he started getting kind of serious and taking it too far, so I decided to distance myself. So after a few years of not talking, I take it upon myself to reach out to him, and we have a heart-to-heart and we rekindle things. So now we over here back to normal, acting like nothing ever happened, and dare I say, we're kind of like flirty, or at least that's how I took it. Eventually, we make plans to hang out and I go over to his place. And I'ma be honest, we start drinking, but each of us only had a few shots. So eventually we go to bed and one thing led to another, and I'm sure you can assume what happened. But when we woke up the next morning, bitch, vibes were off. Mans was not talking to me, and Mans was not looking at me, and I'm like, okay, maybe he's just like not a morning person. And as the days go on, I'm still texting him, following up on plans we previously had made. And he's just simply being dry as fuck and not responding. I'm just kind of like, okay, bitch, like I'm not a fucking mind reader, like tell me what the fuck is going on. He basically just tells me that he doesn't know how to feel because he wasn't thinking straight, and he didn't want that to happen, and he wasn't expecting it to happen, and blah, 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 blah. I'm just bamboozled because like I thought we were feeling each other. Then he tells me that we're still friends and he doesn't want what happened to get in the way of our friendship and whatever, but then he literally ghosts me forever. So now I'm just sitting here thinking like this is his way of getting his lick back. Like if your version of getting your lick back is lasting 3 minutes and then ghosting me after, then he's like in the military now and has been in a relationship for a few years, but I don't fucking know. Anyways, here's a look.
My mother-in-law is refusing for me and my husband to have our wedding on this certain day. He says it's going to ruin our family dynamic. Story time. So me and my husband Mark have been dating for such a long time. Him and his family are both just so good to me. They welcomed me in with open arms. And I got on with literally everyone. He has so many siblings. And I could literally spend time individually with them all. Just love his family so much. And Mark also got along with my family. However, my mum and Mark's mum did not get on. I don't know what it was. It was never like monumental time or anything like that. Them two just never ever gelled, and no, it comes across quite hostile. After about 15 years, Mark finally proposed to me. We were so excited to start wedding planning. Obviously we were a bit nervous because of like mum and mum's situation. However, obviously we knew they'd get along for our wedding, so we literally jumped right into the planning. So we start the wedding planning and me and Mark choose a date. Obviously we start sending out the save the date cards, like our closest friends and family. And I kid you not, when we got the alert that obviously our packages are being delivered to these people, about a minute later we get a call from Mark's mum. All she says is, "You're not having this wedding on this date." And both me and Mark are just so confused. We're like, what? So Mark's dad actually passed away in a car accident. He was younger and his mum was also in the car and she was pregnant at the time, which meant she did end up losing the baby. Obviously this affected her and the family quite bad. However, Mark knew this was obviously on the same day, but he thought it was going to be a lovely testimony to his father. And that's what Mark was trying to explain on the phone, that he wanted to do like a lovely memorial for his dad at the front. It's just going to be a really nice day to celebrate love, which Mark's dad loved. And we were definitely going to share the day with Mark's dad. His mum was not having any of it. She was literally refusing. She was like, "I'm gonna call the place and make sure they refuse to give you this date." She was going really extreme. And "I'm not gonna let you get married, like find a way to stop this," basically. And me and Mark are just so confused as to what to do, because this was the only date this one wedding venue would do for literally another year. It was a last minute cancellation and we just kind of popped on it. We were like, oh my god, yes. You don't want to wait another year. That means we've waited coming up to 3 years to get married at that point. I don't know, I feel like Mark's mum is being quite unreasonable. What do you think?
Am I the asshole for giving my boyfriend of 6 years an ultimatum? My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over 6 years now, since we were 18, and we've made some pretty big moves towards our future recently. Like putting a deposit down on our house and both getting promoted in our careers. We have been together for 6 years and we practically act like a married couple without the title. We share our finances, we go on family holidays together, and both of our families really love each other. To be completely honest, I have been getting kind of sick of my boyfriend tiptoeing around the idea of a proposal. But a little backstory on this: I asked him 2 years ago while I was in university when he thought that we were gonna get engaged, and he said when I finished university. But that was 2 years ago, and now he's been promising me for 2 years that he is going to propose. And now it's getting to the point where I just tell him I don't really care how it's done. I really just would like to be engaged, to be married within the year or so. He's constantly saying how he really wants to marry me and create a little family together and have a future together. But every single time I ask him what's stopping him, he just says that he doesn't know. I always thought that the whole nervousness around proposal was like not knowing how your spouse was going to respond, if they were going to say yes or say no. But at this point, I'm practically begging him for a proposal, so I'm pretty sure he knows that I'm going to say yes. So because of this, I have given him an ultimatum that he either proposes by the end of this year, or I just want to break up at this point. I really want to know what you guys think. Am I the asshole for giving my boyfriend of 6 years an ultimatum? Am I the asshole for going back on my word to help support my husband's affair baby? So now I feel immense hatred and resentment against her and her baby, and I really don't want to be a part of it or help her at all anymore. Unfortunately, she fooled me and I really liked her, but she only was using me, so I told her that I wasn't going to be helping her anymore and I wished her good luck and on her way. My husband will still have an okay salary at his new work, and from what I understood, he was going to have custody, or at least shared custody, of the baby, so the child will not be suffering, but they just won't be rich. I asked her to never contact me again, and now she is just raging that I took back my promise to help her. Obviously, I know that the baby is just innocent in this whole situation, but I just feel so much hatred and anger and resentment towards them that I just feel like I cannot do it anymore. I really feel like I've been used 2 times over now. So, am I the asshole for taking back my word?
Am I the asshole for telling my brother that his own choices about our half-sister got him disinherited? Disclaimer, this is not my story. I will list the source in the caption of this video. I have 3 full siblings and a half-sibling. I am the youngest, 20, a middle brother, 21, and an older brother, 25. When my mom was 5 months pregnant with me, she found out that my father was having an affair with a married coworker who was 8 months pregnant. It was revealed that the married coworker's baby was my father's. She divorced my dad. My dad was a deadbeat. My mom was awesome growing up. My middle brother decided to have a 19th birthday party at my mom's house. My mom and I came home and the girl was there. I realized that it was my half-sister. I was shocked. I had never really had any contact with this girl because we lived in different cities. And to be honest, I never had the desire to have a relationship with a stranger just because we had the same sperm donor. My eldest brother agrees with me. She tried to give me a hug, but I pushed her off of me and I told her not to touch me. My mom, on the other hand, lost her shit. She asked him what the F she was doing here and how dare he bring her into her house. My brother said that he just wanted to introduce us to her and that they had been in contact for the past 6 months. He looked my way for help and I looked away. He took her home and we sat down for a family meeting. My mother essentially told James that him having contact with our half-sister felt like a stab in the back and that the sight of her brought out the ugly feelings that she had pushed down for years. After noticing that nobody but him wanted contact with her, he told us that he wasn't going to have contact with her. I thought that was that and life continued as normal. My grandmother passed away and left everything to my mom, who was her only living child. My mom drafted a will and split the inheritance 3 different ways equally. 3 months ago, my mother and older brother ran into my middle brother at Starbucks with my half-sister. Turns out that middle brother had been letting her stay in the apartment that my mom pays for, and she had been there for the past 4 months. My mom said nothing at the time, but a couple of days later, she emailed us a copy of her newly drafted will. She split the inheritance between my eldest brother and I, and left my middle brother $25. Part 2. Am I the asshole for telling my brother that his own choices about our half-sister got him disinherited? Disclaimer, this is not my story, this is an anonymous submission. She left my middle brother $25 and my grandfather's beater car. He lost his shit and came to the house and asked how mom could do this to him. I instantly rebutted with, well, what the fuck did you expect? And how he called me a raging bitch and I told him that he was an ungrateful asshole. Mom pays for your tuition and your bills and you decide to let the one person in the house that she told you she had an issue with. My mom hasn't stopped paying his tuition or kicked him out of the apartment, so it's not like she left him destitute. I asked my mom why she was so upset to the point of cutting him off and she said, I have 2 sons and 1 daughter, not 2 sons and 2 daughters, and he made me financially support her while hiding her. Since the whole ordeal, my middle brother asked his half-sister to move back to her parents' house. No, her mother and stepdad aren't abusive. They just don't let her get shit-faced in their house. And I know this because for the last 4 months, my middle brother has been trying to rebuild the relationship he previously had with all of us. He lied to everyone about her and would act sus as hell, and now that I think about it, always saying he was hungover and that's why I couldn't go visit him in his apartment. At this point, I don't care if he talks to her or not. I truly don't. But my eldest brother and I won't. I received a message from her on Instagram a few days ago asking me why I hate her so much to the point that my middle brother decided to drop her in favor of us. I told her no one asked him to drop her. He did so because he wanted his part of the inheritance back. I don't hate her. I just want nothing to do with her.
I performed a background check on a guy that I'm seeing, and it may have saved my life. This guy and I met at the club a few months ago, and we clicked immediately. He seemed really fun, witty, charming, all of the above. We started talking and texting over the phone, and things were going great. After a little bit, we decided that we want to start seeing each other. On the second date, I started seeing that things were a little bit off. I was really happy to see him, his company was great, but I just couldn't shake this gut feeling of mine. I've seen some influencers online talking about performing background checks, so I thought, why not? Might as well try it. I'm so happy that I did. It turns out that he has sexual assault charges as well as harassment charges. All of his information has been blocked and deleted off my phone, so now he has no way of finding out where I am or seeing me anytime in the future. I am so happy that you did that, OP, because honestly, you're right, it could have saved you your life. I worked with Public Data Check in the past and I absolutely love them and I support them wholeheartedly. With Public Data Check, you can do things like reverse phone lookups, background checks, find out a lot of background criminal history information that they've never spoken about before. So let's say that you have a neighbor down the street and you want to protect your kids, but they have, child predator charges, or you're about to go on a first date with a mutual friend, but you know nothing about them. You've only heard the good side, but not the ugly. This way you can find everything out. Don't need them to be fully transparent because we know that people know how to lie and fib the truth. Please go ahead and try out Public Data Check. I recommend it to absolutely everybody, and stay safe out there.
I am so sick of people praising my husband for doing the bare minimum. I've literally had enough that I'm gonna divorce him. Story time. And my mother-in-law is the worst for doing this. Mother-in-law was saying how much of an amazing dad my husband is and that I'm so lucky to have him. Literally all he does is take our daughter out for an afternoon walk and change 2 of her nappies a day. Hello, are we not missing the point that this is his child as well? He should be doing this. Even more so that I'm the one that works in this relationship and he doesn't. I'm a nurse, I work really long hours. He sits at home and is a stay-at-home dad. I still do 90% of the work. This woman is quite literally delusional. And when I finally spoke up about this and said he should be doing that, it's his kid, he was like, oh yeah, well we also cleaned the kitchen yesterday. What? Like, one, it's his house as well. He also makes the mess. I cleaned the bathroom, laundry room and living room yesterday, coming home from a 12-hour shift, telling me he managed 1 room. Oh my god, the last straw, to be honest, of this whole conversation and me realizing this divorce is she looked me dead in the eyes. She was praising him for being a loyal husband. She was like, he's so good, like he's never cheated on you, he treats you so well, he's so loyal. Like, yes babe, we're in a relationship, we're married, that's the whole point. To give my mother-in-law a little bit of grace, it weren't just her. All of his mate would be like, oh, you're so lucky to have him, he's so good to you. And I'm like, where? What except from the bare minimum does this man do for me? This man was a complete mess before he met me, and I took him to therapy. I sat with him for hours on end talking about his past relationship and the traumas he has gotten from it, because I would have done anything and moved mountains for this man. However, it has never ever been reciprocated towards me. I'm so sick of praising men doing the bare minimum. I've just gone through the divorce today and I'm going to send my husband a link to this video. We're getting divorced.